Council meeting of April 28th, 2025. If you would please remember to silence your phones. And we will have a public period for speakers. If anybody would like to speak at that time, if you could fill out a speaker card ahead of time, it would help us tremendously. We're going to have a lot of ceremony this evening, and we're looking forward to a new council, but we'll start off the meeting as we always do with a moment of silence. But before we get there, I would like to remember a former council person, Bev Ruffin, who we lost this week. Bev was a longtime member of the city council. She sat up here for 12 years, on and off for several terms. And that was in her capacity as an elected official, but she was before that, a long-time volunteer in the city of Maitland. We can see her walking through all the neighborhoods. I saw her very, very often, out there taking the pulse of the community. And she was a member of the Friends of Maitland Library for a long time. She was on the Maitland Links Advisory Board for a long time. She was on the Personnel Board for a long time. When I say a long time, these are 8 and 10 year stints. So that was just a consummate, advocate for the people of Maitland, and a great person to have. I enjoyed sitting up here for a long time with her. She was always very thoughtful and served Maitland to the best of her ability. And there's so many nice things to say about her. Her name is actually on the plaque out front of this building. She was here for so many important decisions for the city of Maitland over the last decade and more. So if we could perhaps keep her in our thoughts this evening as we have a moment of silence. So please join me now for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And this evening, we will start off with the presentation of colors from Maitland's color guard. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we have several new members of council. We have a veritable revolution up here on council. And we'll begin with the oath of office for seat number 1, Mr. Stephen Shaney. Would you please come up and take the oath of office?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Stephen D. Shaney,
I, Stephen D. Shaney,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
and the city of Maitland, Florida,
and the city of Maitland,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of council member for the city of Maitland,
that I will perform the duties of council
on which I am now about to enter.
in which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Shaney. And now, for seat number 3, we have Scott French. Would you please come forward and take the oath?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Scott A. French,
I, Scott A. French,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the state of
the
Florida,
state of Florida,
and the city of Maitland,
and
Florida,
the city of Maitland, Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of council member for the city of Maitland,
perform the duties of council member for the city of Maitland,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, congratulations, Scott. And now for seat number 4, William Randolph. Would you please come forward and take the oath?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, William Randolph Jr.,
Well, I, William Randolph,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, defend, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the government of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the government of the United States,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
and the city of Maitland, Florida,
the city of Maitland, Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of council member for the city of Maitland,
perform the duties of council member of the city of Maitland,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And now, if you all, being new council members, you have a lot to say. So if you would like to go to the podium now and one by one, and if you have any words, it's not obligatory, but if you'd like to tell us a little bit about how you see your council membership unfolding. So let's start with Mr. Shane. Do you have anything? Wing it.
First, I'd like to say how grateful and honored I am to have this opportunity to serve the city that I live in. We have lived here since 2001, so longer than we've ever lived anywhere in our married life, and we proudly call it home. I'd like to thank and acknowledge all the people that have worked here before me, whether they're hired people, paid people, volunteer people, elected people, that have worked so hard to make the city of Maitland a great place to raise a family. I don't know that there's a higher honor you can say about a city, that it's a great place to raise a family. And then I just thank my family and friends that have all come out. So appreciate the support. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Shane. All right. Scott, do you have any, would you like to take a few moments?
Thank you. I didn't know there were going to be remarks. I saw Stephen brought notes. I just also would like to thank the council and those, particularly those who are stepping down, for all the work you've done, the service you've given. You've been a great inspiration to me. I've been following along and learning from you, and I know I'll look to you for guidance going forward. And I also just want to thank my family and friends. I want to give a special shout out to Jean, who read the oath. Thank you for being with me and behind me all the way here, and to my mom, who's here, and is now living, sharing my house, and is a Maitland resident, so she will keep me posted on anything she wants done. But really, just thank you all, to all of you, to my fellow residents, and I hope to live up to your highest expectations. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Mr. Randolph?
First of all, thank you, council, for your vote of confidence in selecting me. I'm the odd man here. I'm fulfilling the last year of Lindsay Hall Harrison's term, so I appreciate your confidence in me to allow me to be on council. You know, I have to mimic what they were saying or reverberated. I moved here in 1989, and this is the longest I've ever lived in one place. My dad was a career military man, so we moved all over. And then I was in the military, moved all over. But we chose Maitland to be our hometown. This is where we got married. Joan served on council, my wife, for a 3-year term. We've been involved in the city. We've seen it change and grow, have growing pains. We've sat through many a late night, which I hope we don't have to in the future. But this is a great community. It has a lot of great assets to it, a lot of great staff members and volunteers. And appreciate everything that people do in Maitland to improve it. And really hated to see Bev pass away. I served with her initially in 1996 on the Lake Advisory Board. We served together and created the Stormwater Lakes Management Plan. So another legacy is gone in our community. But again, I'm just hoping I can keep up with y'all and make the right decisions. Thank you.
Change venues here for a moment, and we have a presentation for our departing council members. And so I would like to give a special recognition first to Lori Wurtzel. Lori, if you come down and join me here. Stand here while I talk about you for a little while. So I was very excited to have Lori on council, and I think we all were. Lori Wurtzel has been, we're going to miss her, and she is, she had another term that she could have served, and I'm sure she would have taken that term pretty easily. But she has a higher calling perhaps at home with her family and also with her business. So she has a lot of draws on her attention these days, and so I think, I understand completely the decision you made not to stay with us, so I'm not too hurt by that. But I know that your family will love having you home for Monday nights, and Mom can make dinner again perhaps. Dad can make some dinner as well. I know we spend a lot of weekends reading a lot of materials preparing for City Council, and I know nobody has spent more time than you preparing. So I mean, to watch Lori up here kind of chew through a lot of the issues and become acquainted with the minutia of from very complex issues to very mundane issues that we all deal with. And so it's been a great pleasure for me to serve next to you. And you're very smart, very dedicated, and we're going to miss you a lot. And here, I want to go over a couple of the highlights of Lori's term. She was vice mayor, of course, from March 2024 until now. And she was with us for the expansion of Independence Lane North. So we made that decision where we have purchased property and are getting ready to expand this Independence Lane across the street. And it was lots of design, a lot of thought going into that, and a lot of money's going into it as well. So it was not an easy decision, but I think it was the right one. The Fort Maitland Park improvements, I know you all agonized long over that, and that got down into literally the weeds of design. Sidewalk expansions throughout all of our neighborhoods to make everything safer for kids getting to school. And Lori's perspective as a mother of children in schools here and a resident was very valuable in helping us kind of design that and prioritize that. And the bike and pedestrian trails as well. The central sewer expansion, which we've all heard lots about, we continue to hear lots about, and now that you're off council, maybe we'll hear from you about that. There was lift station and critical infrastructure rehab, and the new Maitland Public Library in Quinstrong Park, which you were and I hope you will continue to be a zealous advocate of that as we move forward. So Lori, of course, is married to Ben Wurtzel, another local champion, and $2 Win and Callie. Thank you all for coming out this evening, and thank you for lending us your mother for all these years. You get her back for a little while. I hope she comes back to us at some point because you have still more years to spend. And so on behalf of the City Council, send you this lovely plaque, suitable for training. In fact, it is trained already. But if you'd like to say a few words, tell us first.
You could have added, never turns down an opportunity to share a few words. So when I stood here, it's a true full circle moment, almost 3 years to the date. I came with a lot of ideas about things that could change or be improved upon. And there was a little bit of that, I think, and still always room to grow. But what really I'm leaving with tonight is how much I learned about how great everything already is here. I didn't plan to get emotional, but it's a big part of that is our city staff and all of the people here who dedicate their lives to making this city great for us. And many of them do not even live here. And they do that for you and for me. And I have great appreciation for that, and it made it very difficult for me to accept complaints sometimes, admittedly, from my neighbors, because all I can think about is knowing how much time and thought goes into everything that is done here. The number of times that, especially the heads of staff here, have spent hours, literally, either probably researching to answer my questions or sending emails or having long phone conversations with me, I could not count. And most of the time that was for something that did not advance their job or objectives in any way, because I typically would say, I just want to understand, even though I know you probably already handled it. And 90% of the time it was in fact something that had already been done, but they helped me to understand, also so that I could explain it to residents in a way that I understood as well. And so I really appreciate that. I usually don't have notes. If you know me, you know that, but I wanted to make sure not to leave out any of the names, which I could not do otherwise with my brain itself. So Liberty and Jerry and Jay and Kim and Dan, even though we already said goodbye to him, the building division staff. Thank you for being those people who spent all those hours on the phone with me, and I know everything from parks, sewage permits, all of the things that make people in this town very upset sometimes. And so you really do face the public and take a lot of that for us, and we appreciate that. For Robert, for facing forward and definitely making our jobs easier and handling a lot of the hard questions and making us look beautiful and all of those sorts of things in those pictures. Thank you. And for all of our community partners like Stacy at the library and Danielle at Art and History, our advisory board, volunteers, all of you. For Cliff and his partners for playing lawyer so I sometimes don't have to. and being just as excited as me about the Constitution, I think. And also Chief Morton and Chief Manuel. I think anyone would agree that first responders are the most important part of any community and making it a safe and enjoyable place to live, but you guys really do it better than anybody else. And you know, especially Chief Manuel, that I'm a criminal defense attorney for those who don't know, so compliments to law enforcement do not come very easily from me, and those are well earned. For me, both of you make sure that your teams are well trained, but also that they're happy in their jobs and that they stick around, and that makes all of our lives safer and better, so thank you. And Lori, for starting here so strong right after I came, and so organized and so smart. You really have transformed the way that the city does all the things that we should be doing, and I really appreciate that. And in terms of the city manager, I first would have to mention Sharon, who was the city manager when I came here, and I unfortunately had a very short period of time with Sharon. But when Mark took over, I'm sure that had to have been a very difficult time professionally and personally. And no one noticed in terms of any sort of skips at all. I certainly didn't. And I know that could not have been easy, but you are one of the hardest working people I know. Maybe a little bit too much. Your wife did not tell me to say that, but I will miss the calls and the sense of humor, and I'll probably still keep calling. And then to my council members, including Lindsay, because I assume she's probably watching us on YouTube, I'm sure, from Oregon, and Mayor Lowndes and Mike and Vance. Thank you for your patience with me, first and foremost, professionalism and advocacy. When I came here, I don't think unanimity was at the top of my values, really. I'm kind of a contrarian by nature. But in your more egalitarian and compromising natures, it really taught me that there is value in not just stopping at a 3-2 vote or a 4-1 vote just because you can. Because I think a lot of times in that we came to decisions that were better for the city than I would have thought coming in. And so that's literally how government is supposed to work, and that's the kind of stuff I get excited about, and you guys are part of it. So thank you for teaching me. And to all the residents of Maitland, thank you for letting me be here and do this. And of course my family, thank you for, when I started this I had a pre-K and a second grader, and now I'm about to have a middle schooler somehow, and a second grader. Thank you for supporting me always. So when I came here I had 2 goals: 1, to leave it better than I found it, and 2, to make sure that when I did, to do what I could to make sure there were great, competent people with different perspectives to take over. And I think we'll have to let the history books decide on the former. But as to the latter, I'm very confident in all of the more people than I thought to take over, and to each of you, to Bill and Scott and Steve. I know that you'll do a great job, and I'm super excited to see you here. Make sure that your fresh perspective and your unique skills and experiences in life are what make this great, and that is all you need, and you already have that. So good luck, enjoy it, and to everybody else, see you soon. You never know where I might pop up. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Wild, if you would join me. Well, see you. We're going to miss Mr. Wild as well. Mike Wild has been on council from December 2018 till now. Served 2 terms, filling a vacancy, and then served 2 terms after that. So I've had the honor to serve with Mike for 6+ years up here. And as Lori Wurzel just alluded to, I mean, we spent a lot of time, and I really appreciate Mike's, I think it had a lot to do with Mike helping us get to unanimous decisions a lot of the time, and to find ways to not oppose each other and not to necessarily take a position that for the purpose of winning, but rather bringing us all along for the betterment of the city at large. And so Mike has that kind of tendency in his soul, and he kind of brings that to his work, and it's been a pleasure working with him. Mike was vice mayor from April 2020 to April 2022, and he's got a long list of accomplishments here because he's been on council for so long. He's been involved in a lot of the important decisions here. Mike was on the Metro Plan Orlando Municipal Advisory Committee, the Planning and Zoning Commission. This was before he got on council. He was at Maitland Planning and Zoning Commission, and he was the chair of that from August 12 to, he was on the commission entirely from August 2012 to July 2018. The Planning and Zoning Commission is really one of the very most important parts of the city advisory committees because they are integral to the planning and the urban development, the not so urban development, just all development, and how people get their developments done here. Mike has served the residents of Maitland with loyalty and sincere dedication, and he's been involved with a lot of the improvements in the city, including the Independence Lane expansion, which we've talked about earlier, Independence Square Park, which was, the park that sits next to us over here was in large part due to Mike's work on the board. The Fort Maitland Park as well, I know you were involved with that. Sidewalk expansion and extensions, bike and pedestrian master plan, bike and pedestrian trails that we built throughout the city and improved across east to west. The central sewer extension, the Mayo Community Park, the big lift station changes that we've gone through. These are what things we get excited about here. Well, city council lift stations, infrastructure, that type of thing. It's really what makes the city work. New Maitland Public Library, you were a voice of advocacy for that, and I hope you will be going forward as well. And the Land Development Code, you use your expertise as an attorney and from planning and zoning to help us get there. And the 2035 Comprehensive Development Plan. Mike is married to Stacy, has 3 children, Melissa, London, and Christopher, who are here this evening. And I have to thank you all as well for lending your father for 6 years. His time wasn't wasted. He was up here doing good things for the city, and you all, I think, have good reason to be proud of him. But we return to you partly dented, and he's in good shape still, and so he will serve you well as a father on Monday nights. So, Mike, if you have anything you'd like to say, please do.
I want to start with, I heard the comments earlier from the new council members, and I think that when I think of Maitland and what a great place it is, you hear it from the council members that are coming up, and I hear it from so many people that I walk around the city and I talk to people, and the pride in this community is strong. And I think it's what is one of the foundations of making this such a great city. People love to live here. It's a great place to be. People don't move. And when they move, they often move a few blocks away, which is what I did. And I love it. I love walking through the neighborhood and seeing people that I saw 15 years ago, and their kids getting older and my kids getting older, and going through different stages of life together with the community. It's a special place that I think I've been privileged to sort of help kind of be a part of its future, and have enjoyed all the times with all the members here. I've gotten, as Van said, and as we were talking earlier, I've been on planning and zoning with a lot of these people, and then on different boards, and then gotten to sit on council with a few different iterations and mayors, and it's just, again, the dedication and the pride in this city is strong and unique, and there's so many things about this community that make it special, and the schools, the parks, the lakes, and the foundation, again, of just the people who dedicate their time and energy, both in city council and city staff and boards, that make this such a unique community. And so I've really enjoyed my time here and enjoyed all the department heads. And again, with the different, I started with Sharon and enjoyed tremendously the time with her and Maria as the city clerk, and now we have Mark and Lori and have enjoyed all the conversations with them. Mark would, I sort of joked with him this week that I would get a text from Mark where it would say, "You got a sec?" And I never knew what that could be at the end of that line. It could be something great, it could be something not so great, and but always enjoyed the conversations and the friendships. And I would say that that's what I will take from this, not just the service, but the friendships that I have established with a lot of people here. Just a great group of people, and have enjoyed all the time on and off the boards and on golf courses, and just the opportunity to spend time with people who dedicate so much effort to the city has been a real honor. And I just want to thank all those people. I'm with Lori. I didn't write down the names, and I know I'd forget them if I started to list them, but just a great group, and have enjoyed Cliff's counsel up there. And again, we were a bunch of lawyers up there, but I think we all tried to defer to Cliff's expertise on the city law, because he's definitely the expert up there. So I also, again, my family, I started this, and I remember holding Christopher sitting out front taking a picture, and I could probably still pick him up, but he would occupy more of my arms than he did when I started this. And my girls have been great. It's interesting when I come home after a meeting, I'll talk to my wife all the time about what just happened, and she'll listen to the YouTube, and then she'll give me her thoughts, and then we'll sit down for dinner. So I come home, they wait for me, and we have dinner together, and they'll tell me their opinions, and we'll talk about city stuff, and I love to hear their engagement in the community, because we heard throughout the years when I was here on council, we would often hear participation from our youth come in and give us ideas, and it was valuable, and it was important to hear. And I saw Adam, still here, but he's come in, there he is. He had come in and talked, and so it was those types of experiences I will always value. When I would walk, I've got 2 dogs, and my wife and I walk in the mornings, and we pass people, and there's some people here that I see all the time on parks, and I always enjoyed the feedback that I got. There was never an opportunity where I didn't think that there wasn't room to improve in the city. And I would always take the feedback and talk to Mark and talk to whoever about it, and we would say, hey, we could do this better, or there's some thoughts I heard on a walk. So it's those experiences that I think keep Maitland great, is we can always improve, we can always make things better, and the pride and the sense of community is it's a special place. And so I know that, again, we have a big turnover in council, and I'm confident, as Lori is, that they're going to do a great job, and I'm just, again, felt honored to be part of a lot of great things that happened in the city. And I think there's a lot of projects that were started that are just getting going, and just thankful to have been an opportunity to serve. So again, thank you, and again, thank you again to my family, especially. There is a lot of demands on the coming out here and spending weekends on sometimes, and weeknights going to meetings, and especially during budget season, which you all dive into quickly. But it is, again, it's been a real privilege. So again, I appreciate it, and all the friendships that I've built, really great. So thank you.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the recess. All right, we have a recess, a break for 10 minutes, and we have some cake and lemonade over here, so we'll take 10 minutes and get back to the business. Thank you all for coming.
Please not give me.
All right, let's get right to business. We don't have a lot of it, but we need to get through it. Old business. Mark, is there any old business to report?
No, sir.
Okay. We have a consent agenda. Does anybody on council wish to remove any of the items from consent agenda? No? All right. Does anybody from the public have any comment on consent agenda item number 2? All right, seeing none, let's bring it back to the dais, and if nobody has any comments, well, I guess we need to, if there's nobody has any comments up here, then a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right. Who got there first, Lori?
Mr. Randall.
All right, Mr. Randolph got there first. Got a second, okay. Lori, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney,
Aye.
Councilmember French,
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph,
Aye.
Mayor Loud.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda is adopted. Let's have a public period where anybody can address the council on any item that's not on the, otherwise on the agenda. Does anybody from the public have any comment for us this evening? Okay, let's close the public comment period. We have a couple of decisions. Actually, we have 3 decisions. The first is a second reading of ordinance number 1442. Lori, would you please read the ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1442, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, granting Earth Hall LLC a non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection disposal of waste within the City of Maitland, Florida, outlining the franchisee's duties and providing for terms and conditions under which such franchise will operate, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anybody, Mark, would you like to present the ordinance?
Sure, just real briefly, but before I do that, a little bit of housekeeping that I just thought of that I didn't go over with the new council members as part of our orientation is the mics are very sensitive. If you touch the push button and the green light's on, everybody can hear everything you say and read. If it's off, nobody can hear anything. If it's on, people are also streaming this meeting can hear you much better. So, that being said, back in 2013, the City Council approved an exclusive franchise agreement with Waste Pro, who does all of our commercial and residential recycling and waste hauling. One part of that agreement that was left out was construction and demolition debris pickup. We initially talked about putting that in Waste Pro's contract, but contractors and homeowners wanted a little more flexibility in terms of who they could use for that versus being tied into Waste Pro's rate, essentially opening up a little more of a free market for construction and demolition hauling. So what we do is we open it up, and anyone that wants to haul in the city does its own little franchise agreement, much like we have with Waste Pro. So contractors, residents are doing work on their homes or need construction and demolition hauling can shop it around for our haulers that have franchise agreements to get the best price for the job they're doing. So we have to adopt an ordinance according to the charter of the city for each one of these franchises. They're all identical, just with different names. So this is about the 17 franchises we granted for this service. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public comment period. And if there's any further discussion, we can have it. And if not, the motion would be in order.
Yeah, I think it's good since we've already kind of gone through it, right? So with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance number 1422, granting a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Earth Hall LLC.
Okay, a motion.
Second 1442.
Right.
Oh, it says 1422 right here. I was looking at. So, excuse me, 1442.
Right.
That's the other
Right, yep, it's a
little typo.
okay, 1442. And was that a second by Mr. Shannon?
Second.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Mayor Lapis.
Aye. Okay, ordinance is adopted. The second ordinance that we're dealing with this evening is number 1443, amending section 20.25 on cross connections. Lori, would you please read that ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1443, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida related to cross-connection controls, amending Chapter 20, Article 2, Sections 20-25, amending provisions related to testing and maintenance of backflow prevention devices, updating and clarifying administrative citations and procedures, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Okay. Mark, would you like to present this, or Kim?
I'll take care of it just real briefly. As we talked about at the last meeting, these amendments are mainly clarifications to our backflow prevention ordinance. It clarifies who owns the backflow preventers, which is the homeowner or business owner. It also identifies that the city, not the homeowner, will be responsible for performing tests on the residential service connection. Those are less than 2 inches. Reestablishes the charge that was adopted a year ago. It also requires the non-residential service connections, those that are greater than 2 inches, testing to be the responsibility of the owner. So the owner has to provide the testing for theirs on an annual basis to provide the city with testing. It also requires that the dual jet backflow devices be refurbished or replaced every 10 years according to DEP rules. And it removes the charges for replacement and repairs to the backflow preventers. So basically some cleanup items for our program there to provide clarity. The issue that drove this was about a year and a half ago, we had a resident that did his own testing on his own, and we took the language. We accepted the testing and didn't charge him the fee, but we looked at the language and saw there was some confusion there, so we wanted to clarify it. So when we clarified that, we wanted to make sure that all aspects of the program were crystal clear.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Mark on this? Okay. Does anybody from the public? Let's open the public comment period. Anybody from the public have any comment on
I do,
this?
on that. Excuse me, council members and mayor. One of the things I'm an irrigation.
Name and address, John?
John Beechin from 361 White Oak Circuit, Maitland, Florida. One thing irrigation contractors are concerned with sometimes is that the city or municipality use their DCB 100, which is like an inline check valve. It's not really significant. But then when you go to irrigation, I realize that could cause cross-contamination. They use a dual check valve or the just a check valve, a double check valve. And so we always are concerned with, like, is that something that's spec'd by the manufacturer that's pushing that? Or why did the city use a DCB 100, which is a basic inline $35 piece, versus a piece that we have to use that's almost like a $400 piece when you tap into the irrigation? That's one of our concerns.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Beecham. Does anybody else have any comment on this ordinance? Okay. Mark, is that, just to take that question, does that sound like anything that you?
No, I'm not. That's the first time I've heard of that. So
Okay.
I have to get with our public works to get an answer to that.
Okay. All right. It's an interesting question. All right. Anybody else? Nobody else from the public? We'll close the public comment period. And we have further discussion, or a motion would be in order.
Yeah, just a quick discussion. So, Mark, if to his question, if there's anything that we look at and we're like, oh, we might want to change that by approving this, does that kind of lock us in?
You can always change the ordinance. So if anything comes up, you can always change it.
Okay. I just wanted to let that be known, so it's not like we're just going, they passed it. Okay. I'm good.
Okay, good. Does everybody have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed second reading of ordinance 1443, amending section 20.25 cross connection control.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Mayor Lyons.
Aye. Okay, we have adopted ordinance number 1443. And the last order of business this evening is selecting a vice mayor from among one of you lucky gentlemen. And the vice mayor is it's a year-long stint and will sit as or serve as mayor when I'm not around. In 2024 was Councilmember Wurzel. 2023 was Councilmember Guthrie. 2022 was Councilmember Paul Harrison. 2021 and 2020 was Mike Wilde. So it's kind of going around the horn. I don't know if anybody's interested in serving in this capacity, but you're certainly welcome to. We can open nominations, and the way we would do it is we could take all nominations and then go through them one at a time. And it just takes 3 votes to become the vice mayor. So does anybody have any nominations for this who would like to nominate themselves?
I'd like to nominate Vance.
Okay.
Second?
We have a motion, a nomination, and we could get a second here if we get a third, or we could have another nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay. For Vance. You would vote for Vance?
For Vance.
Yes, okay. I think that's 3.
Yes.
So-
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate your confidence. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you.
Your experience. You are vice mayor for the next year. Do we learn any more on that? Do we seem to have gotten the 3?
That's the way to go out.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, any reports, Mr. City Attorney? Anything?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, we are going to be going into budget season pretty quick, and as a result, this is a good time to consider when things might need to be or should be considered for revisiting. And one of those things you might want to revisit is your current auditor situation. Now, you have with you Carter, Riggs, and Ingram. They've been with you for a bit, and they've gotten big. And maybe this is a factor of the fact that they've grown, I don't know. But more recently, and Jerry can tell you exactly when, but I would say 6, 7, 8 months ago. Could have been longer because with my memory at my age, I'm not really sure, but it was within this year, I can say this. I was asked to review their fee agreement because Jerry said that he hadn't seen anything like it. Well, he's not alone, I hadn't either. If I'm generous, it's only 10 pages long, and it is a bit onerous, would be the way to put it. I'll only focus on a couple of the things that got my attention. There's more, but these are the things that I think would be, if I had my law firm up here, you'd understand, but you will understand for sure. They have a limitation of liability section that keeps them from having liability for basically any kind of damages at all. Causes of action, et cetera, it's, very broad. It's written like an insurance release, and this is for your fee agreement going in, so that their damages can never exceed the amount of the fees we pay them. But their damages to us could be greatly in excess of the amount we pay them. And if you can imagine a lawyer saying, I'll take your case, but you can only sue me for how much fees you pay me, this is a concern to me. And as somebody who is a lawyer who does fee agreements for myself, I would never put that in. I don't think the bar would let me put it in, but having said that, it caused me concern, and I think the comment I wrote was why would anybody sign that? The second thing that got my attention, among several, but this was the one I wanted to bring up today, it says this, and this is under termination. Now, for those who don't know, I think Vance and the mayor know this. This was to be a multi-year agreement. Perhaps you know exactly how long, but it was for a number of years, and they had given us a price. It was all part of the bid contract and so forth. And yet, when they sent it, and this was in the midst of our agreement. They'd already been doing our services, but they sent us a new agreement, which again I think may be a factor of them growing or whatever. But here's what it says under termination. Now, there's a typical part here that talks about if I lose independence or I do other things. things that I can live with. This is what I have struggled with. Except as set forth above, we also have the right and sole discretion to withdraw for any reason from any specific engagement covered by an engagement letter immediately upon written notice to you for conditions noted above. Our withdrawal will release us from any obligation to complete the services covered by that engagement letter and will constitute completion of that engagement. You agree to compensate us for our time, out-of-pocket expenses, and so forth. So, imagine, if you will, we're getting close to the end of our time to get an audit done, and they just decide, because they want to, they're done with us. Remembering that they have a multi-year engagement with us. And so we had at least 2 discussions, Jerry, right?
Yeah.
Conference calls with him, and they had to go through a committee to tell us whether they would agree to change this language, which was so obviously objectionable. So I bring that to your attention because now is the time if you want to consider, what you might want to do. That's for you and the city manager, but because it has some legal ramifications, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Where are we sitting now? I mean, is it time to go out to an RFP, or do we, what's the timing on this now?
The timing would be appropriate now if we're going to go out to bid and test the water, see what kind of other audit firms are out there, or what interest there was. Now would be the time to do that in advance of putting everything together for the budget and having the audit for this year's budget.
Okay, so we have time.
Yeah, but we should, if we're going to move that direction, we should move there fairly swiftly.
So from us, do you just need kind of a feel of the council?
Yeah.
Or does this have to be a vote?
We would certainly need some direction here. It's one of those situations where there are 4 entities that report directly to City Council. Obviously, Lori and I report directly to you, Cliff reports directly to you, and the auditors report directly to you. So they don't go through staff because they're independent, and they give you their view of our financial statements without bias or any reflection of what staff's doing. So if you would like to make a change there, that is at your sole discretion.
So would we bring it back to, would it be a contract that we would approve in council, or is this?
What we would do is you would give us direction to go out for an RFP on this, and then we would come back to you because we need to set up a audit committee that would review those RFPs. That can't be anyone on staff for obvious reasons. It has to be one member of City Council and then 2 other individuals that aren't associated, aren't employees of the city.
Okay. Well, I guess for this evening, it's not really a decision item, but it seems like if this is a concern to our city attorney, and I would imagine to our financial staff as well, I would be in favor of testing the water to see who else is out there making this a more reasonable contract.
Yeah, I mean, if he's looking for direction, I would agree with you. Send them forth to find an alternative.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Is there anything else?
I would agree with that as well. I think it's time. That's the language that's in their contract today. They've expanded to a larger firm. I think this is the time to look for somebody that can do it reasonably and with the correct language in their contract.
And I would point out that this is not about how much they charge us, although I would venture to state, without too much fear of contradiction, I'm not really happy now with the price they negotiated. But this language, notwithstanding, the price is not even a consideration because that's not my area. This language is a consideration. And that it would take 2 conference calls with a whole bunch of people, not just me and one other human. They had like 3 or 4 people on the line with Jerry and I, just to tell them, what are you trying to do here? You have a contract that says you're supposed to be with us for 5 years or whatever it is. 5 years? 10 years? And you're now putting in a provision that you can get out whenever you want. What are you doing? And that was initially, I think, one of the things that caught Jerry's attention. Did they not understand that they bid on a 10-year deal? And why would they put that in the contract and think we're going to sign and be smiling about it?
Okay. All right, Cliff, anything else?
No, sir.
Mark?
Yeah, just real briefly, last Get Down Downtown this Friday. So,
This is the last one, really.
last one for this season, yes. So, come on out, hopefully the weather holds. I'm sure it'll be stifling. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Nothing?
I
Okay.
just want to say that I got through the new names.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very, very well done. Okay, so this is, this part of the evening, we just kind of go up and down the dais. If anybody has anything that the spirit moves them to say, anything going on, anything that's happened, anything you want us to think about, sing out. Nothing? Scott, anything?
I'll say the tree giveaway. I think I had a few neighbors do it, and I also pushed for people to come down and get the ones from Duke that we're giving away at the market. And something that I think I remembered, but I totally forgot, and I just wanted to bring it to people's attention, is my neighbor wants to have some trees put on the side of his house in the right-of-way, and the city will donate a couple trees. So he's looking to get that done. I didn't know that was a thing, where I totally forgot about it. So they just got to come out and inspect where, you know, all the water lines and everything are, and they plant the trees in the appropriate place so it doesn't mess with the infrastructure.
Yeah, over the last little over 2 years since we've been fully staffed in our arbor division, we've been aggressively approaching our urban forestry, our tree planting program. For the last 2 years, we received an award because we put more trees in the ground than we take out of the ground. So we're moving very aggressively forward on that.
Yeah, I've seen in my neighborhood, I've seen them put up a couple of very nice trees. You know, they come and they stake them out and, you know, create a little mound of water and everything. So, and we have a very active program, as you say, and there's been a lot of trees been leaving our neighborhood and probably needed to go anyway. So, but nice to have that, you know, just replacing and keeping our tree city designation. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think that will be it for the evening, and we can stand adjourned. Thank you.
Congratulations on the first city council meeting.